Hello, everyone. Today, I'm going to be explaining the metaphysical principles behind remote viewing as well as astral projection. Oftentimes, these terms are flown around quite loosely in the New Age community, and different people talk about it through different analogies and firsthand experiences, but not really the underlying principles and mechanisms behind what makes it work. Today, I really want to explore more so the underlying structure of how these are done, as well as my current experience with it and understanding having done some of these practices myself. Just to simplify this, these two practices are simply an extension of the Jing Qi Shen cultivation process that we teach at the Art of Qi. And more so, it's connected to the Qi body, which is the astral body, as well as the Shen body, which is the mental body. Now let's talk about each, okay? So with remote viewing, what it is simply accessing your conscious awareness and your mind simply through the mental realm. So this is one of the three realms, right? When you learn to cultivate and bring energy into the mental realm, essentially the concept of space dissolves and it distorts in a way that you're no longer governed by space. And how you can experience this yourself is if you just simply close your eyes and you envision right now the Eiffel Tower, boom, immediately you can see the Eiffel Tower. So it is to say that unlike the 3D experience, the mind itself isn't governed by space. And the substance that moves faster than the speed of light is mind itself, the mind substance. So when you're in remote viewing, what you're training is the discernment to move your mind substance in such a way that it can grasp and develop insight in other parts of the universe without taking your body with you, or even at other aspects of your subtle body, like your astral body and your physical body. Now, the difference between remote viewing and astral projection is that when you're doing astral projection, you're very much in the astral realm. So it is very much governed by space. However, when you're going to astral projection, it feels like the concept of time then distorts and it almost like collapses on itself. And it might feel like you've had an entire adventure might have only taken place in a couple of minutes. And this is why when you have dreams, you could have been asleep for just a couple of minutes, but like you wake up, you're like, wow, I just had this crazy experience. You'll notice this when you're going into like REM sleep and maybe like you wake up, you're kind of awake, sort of not in the dusk of the morning. And when you're in this state, you close your eyes and you drift off into this dreamlike state and you have an entire adventure there and you wake up and that could just be in the span of a couple minutes and then you drift off again and you wake up. So very much it feels like that in the astral realm. And from my experience, I found that there's two different distinct types of this astral. The first is instead of coming out of your body, you're simply expanding out your astral fluid and your emotional essence into the room. It almost feels like this creeping honey-like fluid that covers all the walls, covers the chairs, and it's like you don't have an atomic body, you don't have a essence, but you basically harmonize with wherever you're going. And it's like a slow creeping sensation that you eventually just go through and you're still governed by the distance. So you start where your body is and you're going into other directions and you're exploring and you become the space and your astral body takes on the shape of and the quality of the space itself. The second type of astral projection is where you actually come out of your body and the containment of your astral body is almost like a mental fabric. So your mental field is containing your astral essence and you're releasing that essence out of your physical vessel. And in that, you're holding on a shape. It doesn't have to be a humanoid shape, but you have some sort of an energetic presence. And through that energetic presence, then you can navigate the astral realm that way. So both works and you go through them for different reasons. So the astral fluid, that is just the pure astral essence. And I find for me, it's just a way for me to relax. Oftentimes when I'm having a hot bath, I just release astrally out and submerge into the entire house and into the nature around me and just really take on the essence and the quality, the astral quality of that. Again, you don't want to be doing that in the middle of a busy highway, but if you're just feeling like you want to take on the emotional aspect of the nature around you, if you're in the forest, this is really nice to do, right? And just the toroidal field of the trees and just the natural cleansing mechanism of streams. These are all really healthy when you release your astral essence into that, right? Whether that's in the middle of a jungle or especially if you're sitting and meditating by a creek and you just release your astral essence and the astral body into the creek itself. It has this quality of cleaning out your body, right? You're cleaning out your astral field, and you just feel emotionally more cleansed and lighter afterwards, like that brisk mountain water. I find that if I'm journeying in the astral realm and I want to actually like have an astral experience and going as a tourist, going into different arenas, then actually having an essence is a bit effective. So the last experience, let's put this into our three body experience, right? So remote viewing is purely a mental experience. The astral, having an astral body and having an astral projection, from my experience, it's both on a mental level as well as an astral level. So you have the mental matrix and the containment of the astral body, and you're projecting out of that. Whereas the astral fluid is more pure, like an astral essence. Now, the last quality that I would incorporate into this description is something that I've really chanced upon, and it's not something that in my current level I can just activate like this. And what it is that it's projecting myself when I get these experiences when I access in the Akashic realm, when I'm going through a portal in the Akashic arena. And what it is, seeing myself almost like as this bluish white orb floats there. And the only way I can put it is this monadic essence. It's the essence of your spirit, of your higher self that transcends lifetimes. So it's not your astral self, your soul body. It's a containment of your life path in this specific life. It takes on your personality. Whereas this monadic essence, it's almost like devoid of egoic quality, and it supersedes your current egoic understanding and your eternal self, right? And it's the closest thing that you have that is still individualized, that is next to godliness, and that's next to the ineffable source. How it happens is when I'm in very deep Akashic trance, and I get taken into this experience that it isn't really astral projection, but rather I'm skipping timelines and I'm going into this collapse of space-time itself into different lifetimes. And it's quite hard to explain, but sometimes I get taken from what I'm perceiving in that experience as thousands of years in the past. And I'm having very interesting experiences. But again, I don't have the body, right? And I also have an autonomy to walk around. But different from remote viewing, where I have this omnipresent perspective, my view is confined into this monadic orb, but I have this freedom to navigate across the space-time fabric of wherever I am in that time frame. I found that really interesting, and it's something that I have a curiosity to explore, but also I'm a bit hesitant because sometimes you don't want to be unlocking some of these memories, because when you can remember things that has happened to you in prior cycles, it brings the karma of that cycle closer to your present day life stream. So it's not something that you always want to be exploring this with more so of an internal calling and a purpose, as opposed to just dabbling and getting drunk and high off of thinking you're a priestess in this life and you're this and this and you're a druid here and blah, 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 blah. You don't want to jump into the land of fantasy, and you're reincarnated into this timeline to fulfill a specific task. So really basking in the glory of your past accomplishments or your past karmic mishaps isn't really a good use of this lifetime, unless if it's really what you're meant to be doing. And beyond these mechanisms, there are more advanced vehicles for you to actually bring all three bodies into experiencing. I fell into this monadic exploration by mistake, but if I really want to get into this, there's different methodologies that you can actually manipulate space-time in a way and go into different dimensions. So there's two paths that my current mentor kind of explained to me, and it's something that I tamper with slightly. But at the moment, I'm just like, there's so much to train. So this is like at the bottom of the rung, just because I want to improve myself in this lifetime beyond just dabbling in these curiosities for now. But one methodology is through the key of the Merkaba. So this is like an inverted dodecahedron, and it's a shape that you can basically develop into your subtle body that stabilizes your field enough to travel through space-time. And it's an advanced meditation protocol for you to do this. You can search up these type of meditations, but again, you're in this lifetime to serve a specific purpose. So you want to be able to really embody that before you dive into these type of things. It could be potentially a distraction from what you're actually supposed to be doing in this life. But again, with the nuance that unless if this is your calling, that you're doing these type of working these higher realms, right? But oftentimes it's not grounded. And if oftentimes these people who make it a life's purpose to do this, they struggle financially, or it might be hard for them to get their 3D needs met, because on a 3D society, no one really rewards these type of work. So you have to really find a balance and make sure that your health is being met, your purpose is being met, and all the lower Maslow's hierarchy aspects is being met before you go into such a high level of practice. But the next key that you can actually have is the key of the Vitruvian Man. Leonardo da Vinci, he drew this famous painting of the man encircling the square, where it's like the man's up here and it's this depiction of the Vitruvian Man, and there's a circle around him, and then there's the square. So the real key with this type of painting that Da Vinci has left is the key to traveling through space-time. And you're building this almost like your own craft, your own spaceship that can go into hyperspace and jump into different dimensions and take you through different realities. It stabilizes your energy enough and it gives you enough protection that your subtle body can actually go through these. And oftentimes this is the type of energetic body that you have to cultivate in order to go into through like stargates in different sacred sites. You can see oftentimes it's almost like doors, but behind the door it's either empty, there's nothing there, like Stonehenge, or there's like a wall there. And what these adepts did in the past is they realized these doors are built in the sacred geometric pattern in specific vortexes that can actually act as gateways to take you to different destinations across the space-time continuum and accessing, whether it's in this universe or beyond, we're dealing with like 5 to 7D type of different dimensions and different multiverse possibilities. The key with the Vitruvian Man is that you want to look at the painting not as a 2D construct, but rather as 4 dimensions. So whereas the circle it looks as in 2Ds, in 4 dimensions, it becomes the toroidal field. You want to, first of all, have a mastery over your electric magnetism and actually how you can both be electric as well as magnetic simultaneously, mastering the yin and yang principle of your energetic field. This essentially allows the energy to circulate and almost builds like this vortex energy that protects your field. And the second thing is the square, if you look at that, the 4 dimension, it becomes the tesseract. Okay, so it's a 4-dimensional cube. And that's the cube that would stabilize and ground you. So the cube is the platonic solid of the earth element. So it'll ground you and it'll stabilize your field enough to move through these dimensional fields. So when you develop the toroidal field on a subtle level along with the tesseract, then you build this energetic body that kind of takes you through these different dimensional understandings. Currently, I must say it's really beyond my pay grade to share with you any additional insight with that. I have tempered into it, and wow, the moment I did it, I was like, okay, it's amazing, and I can see myself just getting lost in this world out of curiosity and then just out of just sheer amazement. But I think once you get into alchemy, it's like you begin to understand if your motive is out of ego, you can only go so far. By the time you get into this level, so much of your egoic self dissolves that it's like a self-fulfilling thing. Although you know how to do it well, you have to have dissolved your ego enough to do it. But then the process of dissolving your ego makes these type of curiosities and these egoic desires not as relevant, and you just keep wanting to double down on your own self-liberation, integrating your own energetic body, becoming a better person, serving the community, and finding practical ways. So really a master who can tap into this, they've already gone through the path of service, they've already incorporated all of their darkness and alchemize all of their essence to the point that now they feel they're ready to tap into these, right? At my current level, I have a lot of calling still just to bring this type of advanced alchemy into more pragmatic manifestations. So for the time being, I don't see it as a part of my path. However, that being said, at least the prior to remote viewing astral projection, it's something that we do incorporate and touch upon in the Art of Chi program, and I can do it one-on-ones if you want to explore that further. If you are curious in more of these advanced practices, what I encourage you to do first is to get the fundamentals. And often this could take you like 3 to 10 years to just master the fundamentals before getting to this work. You definitely want to get a very solid grasp and be an incredibly grounded master of the alchemical arts before tampering into this, because when you're into these multidimensional realms, not all consciousness is safe and wants the best for you. So you need to develop the discernment to actually approach these type of exercises safely versus doing it just simply out of curiosity. There's a big repercussion for accessing these realms when you're not ready. So again, it's interesting because this universal causality that almost like forces you that if you don't have the mindfulness and the presence to construct this and to do this, then you're not ready, so then you won't do it. But then when you are ready, you can already develop that and you go off on your own. So there are some universal mechanisms that kind of governs the safety of it. But nonetheless, one must develop the wisdom to proceed with caution and having very high respect and regard for this type of advanced cultivation. I think we went into more of the esoteric realms. I try to keep this channel more grounded, especially as an invite to those who very much like me, I came at this from a business education. When I first heard all of these things, wow, okay, yeah, this is just way woo-woo, no way this exists. And it's just slowly, after getting shocked so many times, eventually I'm like, all right, let's see what else the universe has and try to integrate that and make it rational. I tell all my students, you don't need to believe anything I say. You don't need to take what I say as the truth. I'm only sharing what I have from my own experience and what rings true to me. And there are things that even people I learn from, they're saying, I'm like, well, you know what? Either they're full of shit or I'm not ready to receive that yet. I have an open mind. I'm not judging, but it's certainly not something that I'm transmitting myself because I don't feel like I have that embodied. Nonetheless, you don't need to believe anything I say. Approach this type of work with an open mind, with a childlike curiosity, but also with discernment. You want to apply the scientific method, taking yourself as the sample size and validating the truth through your own experience, as opposed to just a random YouTuber here telling you what is and what isn't. And again, if you want to dabble into this, I do encourage you, find an energy mentor, someone who can actually take you step by step into these realms. Because otherwise, unless you're a highly evolved spiritual being, there might be mistakes that's made along the way that could be detrimental or very ill-advised. So hope that made sense. Drop us a comment if you have any questions, concerns, if you want to share any experiences, as well as continuing following us, subscribing along the way to hear how us at the Wisdom Tree Institute is connecting the ancestral wisdom of the East and the West into our own unique healing modality, holistic healing, as well as creating a universal blueprint towards consciousness expansion. Hope to hear from you guys shortly, and we'll stay in touch. Take care. Bye.